Hey everyone, it's Brandon here. As part of some of the exciting changes that we're making at Tuatera, we are going to start sharing content with you in some new formats, whether that is an email or written newsletter format, or in this case, a video. The point of that is to share exciting developments with you as quickly and as robustly as we can, and then we can always use some of our meetings when we're together to explore these concepts further. It's our goal to just bring you increasing value, make you aware of some of the exciting developments in the industry through this process. And the one that we want to talk about today is patient financing. I've recently learned about an exciting development in this area. I've had an opportunity to speak with some of you personally about this. In every case that I have, those practices have moved forward with the solution that I'm going to present you today. I think patient financing is becoming an increasingly critical area to the dental industry. In the coming years, I think it's going to be one of the biggest levers to combat PPO participation. We all know that PPO reimbursement rates are not getting any better, and that's a very hot topic across the industry. So developing some arrows in the quiver that we have to effectively go out of network and reduce that participation while addressing affordability is going to be a big deal. I want to step back and look at patient financing from a big picture. I think we all know that often why this area is important is that financial considerations are often cited as the top reason why patients say no to treatment. And this feedback is consistent across income groups. So I know it might be easy to say, yeah, there's always that small part of the population that doesn't value their health. But according to research, even from the HPI or the ADA, even high income folks often say this is one of the top barriers. Now, traditionally, I think many dental owners have thought about patient financing as a solution for very large cases, such as those $10,000 and up, those full mouth rehab cases and things of that nature. While that is true, that's not necessarily what we're talking about today. Because the way that most Americans live, and we're going to touch on this in the video, really creates a big gap at much lower amounts, more in the, let's call it the $500 to $5,000 spot. And we see treatment acceptance can really start to dip after you get above, say, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500. These aren't large cases. You might be talking 2 crowns, and from the dentist perspective, it'd be really great to be more efficient in that procedure and knock those both out at the same time. But from the patient standpoint, they might break those into 2 appointments, spread it out over 6 to 12 months in order to leverage their insurance benefits. So there's a lot of opportunity in most practices to address this tranche. Let's talk about elective procedures, whether you're offering these now or you might in the future. It's our feeling at Tuatera that when you're talking about elective procedures such as Invisalign or cosmetic, utilizing financing and pricing and affordability, it's going to be a bigger and bigger part of the equation. You know, I know in my household, we're going to find the money to do things that we have to do, okay? So if someone in the house ends up with an affected tooth, we're going to find the money for that. But when it comes to something like an Invisalign case for me or my wife, or teeth whitening, knowing how much that's going to cost us, and if we can spread that out, it's going to be a real big part of that decision. So that you're aware, if you've talked to me recently, I've probably plugged clear aligner therapy or Invisalign. And I do that because, according to some statistics, that market is projected to grow at about 30% per year for the next 6 or 7 years. That's about 8 times the growth rate that's expected for the dental industry overall. I think many practices want to be part of that market, and unlocking new sources of patient financing could be critical in that area. And then this is a big one. For many practices, PPO participation blocks patient financing. And what I mean by that is, who wants to take another 10% hit or so on merchant fees on top of a PPO reimbursement rate where you might already be giving a discount of 20 to 40%? I know that I wouldn't. And I think this is one of the issues that we've had industry-wide, where many practices run patients through a gauntlet, a battery of questions, trying to figure out if they'll be able to come up with any way other than patient financing to pay for their treatment, because they don't want to do that. And that's a big issue. And the solution that we're going to be talking about today, I think, gets around that in a meaningful way as well. On the patient side of things, the people that we're talking about here, we live in an era of financing, subscription plans, month to month, and large expenses. And as I said earlier, I'm not talking 10,000, I'm talking more like 1,000. Can really throw a wrench into how most people live. At the same time, an interesting phenomenon is that most people are good for the money. I want to say that again. Most people would have a hard time paying you $1,000 today, but most of those same people are also good for the money if you'll give them a few months to pay for it. We're sharing this, and we're going to dive into some statistics because most of our dental owners have a financial situation that's a lot different than the patients that they're trying to serve. So we want to give you some insight into who is on the other side here so you can really understand why we think these solutions are powerful. And as an example of that, this morning before recording this video, I was on Amazon trying to purchase something miscellaneous, and they offered me two months financing on a $96 purchase. I can spread $96 out over bi-weekly payments of 2 months. In a world where Amazon and Apple lets us do things like that, consumers are expecting the same of everywhere they go, including dental offices. So let's continue to unpack this. Americans have low checking and savings accounts but high credit scores. So here's some statistics I'm going to show you from various websites across the internet. There's no perfect numbers here, but I think all of these are directionally correct. So your average American might have about $3,000 in the checking account, or their checking and savings combined. So you think about, you've just told Sally that she needs a $2,600 procedure, and she doesn't have any patient financing at this point. She's not sure if she can pay this and rent over the next coming months. That's the world that she's living in, whereas that might not be any issue for a very affluent patient. At the same time, most Americans, including Sally, have very good credit scores. Average American credit score is now 700 and higher. And this is a substantial improvement over the last 10 years, which means that about 75% of Americans are considered prime borrowers. And as a result of these phenomenons, your average American already has access to a substantial amount of credit, with most Americans having a combined credit limit of $25,000 or more. So again, as you look at this information, your average American has very little access to cash right now, but has good credit and has access to that credit. And we want to be able to offer solutions that reflect that reality. I want to look at credit scores one more way. I'm going to use our brand position framework. Hopefully most of you are familiar with this. Some of you might not be, but we're happy to explore this in greater depth with you. I share this because I think as we think about this area and we think about maybe talking to our team, anecdotally, we have experiences in our offices of patients that were denied for a care credit, denied for a different solution, can't afford their treatment. And those anecdotes tend to stick out, but they're not the norm. And if you look at this chart where we lay out our brand positions relative to household incomes and credit scores, you can see that even in households that have about $30,000 to $60,000 in household income, which we would match up with our essential brand position, the average credit score in that household is 692 or whereabouts, which is a prime borrower. Again, just reinforcing that credit and income are different things. Credit reflecting people's history of paying their bills back. And so there's a lot of people out there, if they're not making a lot of money, they do a good job paying their bills back. This doesn't mean that I'm advocating for you being the bank. Just want to unpack this so you really understand the situation of your patients. Now that we've done an overview of patient financing, let's talk about CareCredit. CareCredit has been the major player in this area for years. They have a business model that's misaligned with most dentists. And that's where there's an opportunity with this new solution that we're talking about. Now let's go through where's the misalignment occur. Most of you probably know this. You have your own CareCredit account. A lot of your patients don't use it. Why explicitly does this happen? Well, upon opening the card, which most offices do as part of a large procedure, patients can thereafter enjoy 6 months financing on every appointment above $200, which is often just a simple hygiene appointment, and that's going to cost the practice another 6% each time in merchant fees. So whereas many practices would have absolutely no issue opening up the card and providing the promotional financing, say for that $8,000 initial treatment plan, a lot of heartburn is caused then by the patient having this ongoing credit card they can use every time and enjoy that 6 months finance, which costs the practice. CareCredit's model is to create a credit card network that works for them, that can be used at 250,000 plus locations across the United States. That sounds really great. And that's one of the reasons at this point most dental practices have to offer it. But it doesn't create any exclusivity for the dentist. And it actually makes the patient switching costs easier, which we're not necessarily trying to do. Not that we want to trap patients, but we are trying to create differentiated experiences, and CareCredit's network somewhat works against that. On the patient side, patients don't want hard credit checks and the equivalent of basically a mortgage application to get a root canal done or a couple of crowns. So again, this has probably worked fine if I'm looking at $15,000 of treatment. I understand there's some paperwork involved there. But many people, if you're talking $3,200, they don't want to feel like they're signing away their firstborn. And then patients don't want and need more credit. As I said earlier, most Americans already have access to $25,000, $30,000 more in credit. They don't need another credit card. So to some extent, the whole mechanism of opening up a credit card works against CareCredit in the practice, where the patient wants a solution for, say, the initial $8,000 procedure, but they don't want another ongoing credit card that's open. They're not thinking they're going to use it. They don't want to manage it. They don't want to miss a payment. It just creates more admin in their life. And the result of that, as I teased at the beginning of this slide, is most dental practices have CareCredit. I think every practice that Tuatera supports has a CareCredit account, as an example, but the percentage of patients utilizing those accounts is very low. By our analysis, both of our current clients that we support, as well as the overall market, we suspect about around 3, maybe 5% of patients are actively using a CareCredit account. And so you think about what I said earlier, with Amazon offering 2-month financing on a $96 purchase, and maybe about 3 to 5% of patients are using any sort of patient financing in dental, we have a really big opportunity here. Before I switch gears to the solution that I want to present you, I want to make a note. If CareCredit is working for you and working well, that is fantastic. And we wouldn't say that you have to eliminate CareCredit. In many cases, actually, because it is so prevalent in the industry, you're going to want to keep your CareCredit account for those patients that already have the card. But now I'd like to introduce you to a new solution that we're very excited about, which is called Cherry. Some of you maybe have heard of this, but they are an up-and-comer, and so I suspect that many of you, this will be the first time that you're hearing of this solution. Unlike CareCredit, that is a revolving traditional credit card, Cherry is an innovative buy now, pay later solution that's designed specifically for healthcare. I just mentioned a moment ago my experience on Amazon. That is from a company called Affirm, publicly traded large company. Maybe you've heard of them. They're also starting to move into the dental space. Why aren't I talking about them? Why am I talking about Cherry and no one else? Because their service is specifically designed for healthcare. Not just dentists, but dentists, veterinarian, med spa. And as such, I think it really does a nice job of addressing the nuances and the specifics of dental, some of the challenges that are in this industry that are not in Amazon's industry. And we're going to go through those now. Number one, there's no hard credit check ever. Not for the loan application itself, and then not to have final approval and then get the funds. It's a soft credit check, so you just don't go through this mortgage-like application process that, again, I think puts a bad taste in patients' mouth. And it does not impact your credit score unless you default. Okay, if you default on these things, it is a loan, so I think all bets are off, but it doesn't impact your credit score, because that is what buy now, pay later services are. They are solutions that leverage your traditional credit without hitting it, unless, again, I think if you default, that's a different story. Like Care Credit, it does have large approval limits, up to $35,000, but it really specializes in $10,000 and under, and that's what we're going to focus on. The process that I'm about to describe and how quick that is really for $10,000 and lower. If you're interested in using this tool for amounts above that, there'll be some additional steps in the process. Not that it can't be done, but just know that we're talking about under $10,000 because we are looking to unlock that tranche, 500 to 5,000, if you will, 500 to 10,000 even. We're not necessarily talking about full mouth rehab cases and those things that we already have some decent solutions, Care Credit, Proceed Financing, Lending Club, and some others that are addressing that market, I think, sufficiently. Lightning fast approvals. And I've done this myself, by the way, and it's like a 2-minute process. It's very quick to click a few buttons, input some information into their system. Their algorithm does its magic, and you get a lightning fast approval decision with an amount in a matter of minutes. Cherry solution lowers the default 0% option from 6 months with Care Credit to only 3 months. So as I said earlier, we're talking about Care Credit. Once someone has that card, they can come in and for anything $200 or more. And I don't believe that amount has budged in years. So with inflation, $200 is not very much now. So with Care Credit, at $200 and above, patients can enjoy 6 months financing, which costs you about 6%. With Cherry, they've lowered that threshold to only 3 months. So it's still the same $200, but now instead of getting 6 months, 0%, they get 3 months, 0%. 3 months over a $200 purchase is more than sufficient. And also by doing that, Cherry's able to cut the fee basically in half to more like 3% for the dental practice. If you think about what you're paying on a credit card swipe, it's about 2 to 3% anyway. So you're really not out much here with the patient using Cherry as opposed to credit card. Got some more highlights. So based on what I just said, Cherry in general should be able to offer you about 20 to 50% lower fees than Care Credit. And like I said, in a 3-month purchase, it's going to be as close to on par as your merchant fees you'd pay with a credit card anyway. In some cases, your fees can get down to as low as 1.9%. Cherry also incorporates volume tiers or discounts. So unlike Care Credit, where if your 12-month fee is 9.95%, and that's what it always is, Cherry rewards practices with a lower rate. They're using the solution more. This creates win-win alignment. It's something that your patients want. It's something that's good for your office. Patients get to say yes to their treatment, and Cherry recognizes that's happening and rewards you with lower prices. Can't share that information here because it is subject to change, but that is something that if you contact Cherry with the information we're going to give you here in a moment, you can learn about the fees in more detail. The financing is also exclusive to the practice. So remember what I said earlier about CareCredit? The patient gets a credit card in that case that can be used at any office basically in the country. That's not the case with Cherry. When the patient goes through the approval process, it's exclusive to the practice. But another unique feature is that the patient often will be approved for the maximum amount, such as $10,000, and the maximum time period, such as 6 months. Why is this valuable? You can put your participation in Cherry on your website, and if you connect it with something like Invisalign, I, as a patient, if you capture me in marketing, I can go on and see that your practice is offering Invisalign for as low as $300 a month, for example, and I can go and apply through Cherry and see that I'm approved. Even though I might only need, say, $5,000 or $6,000 for this case, Cherry might approve me for $10,000. What does that do for the practice? Well, as dentists know, patients can't always predict the treatment they're going to need. So while I know I might want Invisalign, what I don't know is that there's something else I should deal with before I do that treatment or along with it. But by being approved for more than just the one procedure that I'm interested in, which is the Invisalign in this case, the dental office has some capacity to let me know that they could also take care of that crown or filling or whatever needs to be done under the approval that I already have, as long as that's within the $10,000 limit. And then this is a credit line, if you will, that's open for a period of time. So it does not instantly close the moment that I say yes or sign up for the Invisalign. It'll remain open for up to 6 months. Other ways that facilitates things is if you have longer treatment plans or things change as treatment unfolds, the patient's already been pre-approved, and as long as they're in that window, they won't have to redo their application. Cherry is also a true 0% option. So there's no gotcha deferred interest here. This is one of the differences between buy now, pay later and traditional financing offers. We all know that the interest rate on credit cards is really high. I know owners sometimes have moral issues with the APRs. No one really wants to put their patient in an 18.99% interest situation. Well, under things like CareCredit's deferred interest, that's what can happen to patients if they don't pay out those balances in time, and those balances go back to day one. If you've used these before, and I have for large purchases in my own life, you have to watch those accounts like a hawk to make sure you get it paid off in time and triple confirm that it was paid off in time so you don't get hit with that interest from day one. Cherry solves for that by making this a true 0% option. It's true 0% on behalf of the patient because the dental practice has already paid for it. If they default, they may incur interest at that point forward, but it would not be for the entire balance. It would only be for the balance that's remaining. There's no gotcha that goes back to $1. And then based on the feedback that we've gotten so far and what we've seen ourselves, it's really straightforward. It's easy to understand. It's easy to train your team members and implement. So hopefully you're excited. You're as excited as I am at this point, and you'd like to learn more. First, I want to let you know that I've personally tested this solution along with CareCredit and Alpheon and some others, and was really impressed, not only with how fast it was and how easy, but just the whole experience overall. And so this is something I can personally speak to, that I've went through the process. If you would like to learn more, we do have a link that you can follow so that when you connect with Cherry, they will know that you're associated with Tuatera. Now, you can also reach out to us and say, hey, Brandon, can you just introduce me to your rep? And I can do that too. We would like to make this as easy and as streamlined as possible for you. So if you do move forward, please do use this link or reach out to us so we can make sure that the people that we're familiar with at Cherry know that you're connected with us and offer you a great experience. For those practices that go forward using our link and letting us know, you'll be able to help us do good while doing good. So practices that sign up through the above link or through an introduction will allow us to contribute funds to our Tons of Good project. Our Tons of Good project is where we donate funds at the end of every year to charities, a combination of those in the dental industry and those that are not. And we use 100% of the proceeds that we receive from any referral sources. We do that so that we can confidently bring to you solutions that we believe in, that we have no financial incentive for you to sign up. But a lot of these companies do offer us that financial incentive. And so we've chosen to accept that and then do good with it by donating it through various organizations. So want to be transparent about that. You can click on our webpage to learn more. And again, that's something that we're really proud of and hope that you'll want to help us participate in that. And then finally, if you do decide to move forward, please reach out to us and let us know so that we can work with you on some of the next steps. What would some of those be? You probably want to update or streamline some of your office procedures. It can be complicated to present multiple financing solutions, so we can help you brainstorm that. We think if you're going to move forward with Cherry, it's important to update your website and create a landing page and allow that to be part of your marketing so that you can differentiate yourself, and potential new patients will know that right away and can be part of the decision that they're coming to your office. As I mentioned earlier, if I were to pursue an Invisalign case or my wife was, we'd want to know up front before we went into the office what kind of financing opportunities are available. You're going to have to put language on your website, such as for well-qualified borrowers or subject to approval. Most people know if that's them, okay? That's the same language that's used in buying a car or a major appliance or even a house. Most of us know where our credit score is, so you can confidently put this information on your website and just put the disclaimer that it's for well-qualified buyers. And then we would love to help you establish your 0% promotional thresholds. So Cherry allows you to customize the 6, 12, 18, and 24-month thresholds. So I said earlier, the default is 3 months at $200. After that, you can set whatever limits that you want to offer 0%, 6, 12, 18, and 24 months. We can work with you to help establish goals that align with either your brand position and your strategy or certain procedures that you would like to highlight and draw customers in with. In conclusion, I hope that you found a lot of value in today's presentation. Again, we're really excited about patient financing and think it could be a critical element in the fight against PPO. If you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out to us. We'd love to get those answered for you, and we'd love to see as many practices as possible pursue this solution again because we think it'd be so critical and so helpful for your patients. Thanks.